Perhaps no other literary figure in India has enjoyed the kind of reputation that Rabindranath Tagore has enjoyed in the last 100 years. He was the first person to win a Nobel Prize, first person from India to win, and so far he remains the only one to do so in literature. As most of his works are in Bengali language, he has a different reputation in the Bengali speaking world as compared to the outside one. The Bengali speaking world constitutes one state in India, the West Bengal, and the country of Bangladesh. In fact, both these countries, India and Bangladesh, their national anthems were written and composed by Rabindranath Tagore. So you can see his influence. Tagore was many things. He was a writer, poet, novelist, playwright, lyricist, composer, painter, and that's not surprising when you see Bengalis. When it comes to art, the range of talents that they have is usually numerous. And he leaves behind a large body of work. I won't talk about too much about the books or the details of them, but I'll try to make you understand the world of Tagore, where he came from, what was he trying to tell you, and how he uses different formats to tell the stories. The sense of Tagore's literature is best captured in Swedish Academy's statement when he was awarded the Nobel Prize. It said that he's being awarded the prize because of his profoundly sensitive, fresh, and beautiful verse by which, with consummate skill, he has made his poetic thought, expressed in his own English words, a part of the literature of the West. Tagore was celebrated quite enthusiastically during those years by the likes of W.B. Yeats. He was praised for the kind of ideas and thoughts he brought from the East to the West. In fact, many referred to him as a mystic, and they still do. And it was believed that Tagore brought the smell of mysticism from India to the West. But where does Tagore's spirituality or mysticism come from? That's not hard to find. A lot of it comes from the family. His grandfather, his father, they were involved in Brahmo Samaj, a reformist Hinduism movement. They tried to bring back the monotheistic aspects, the Upanishad aspects of Hinduism into the mainstream. Although it ended up becoming another sect within the religion, but their philosophy pretty much came from the foundational texts of Hinduism. So when you read Tagore, it's almost impossible to avoid the fragrance of spirituality. You can also call it religion, but in the Eastern traditions, there is hardly any line between the two. And so much of his literature is quite a meditative experience. Tagore started writing very early in his life, and he published his first book when I think he was still 17 or 18. But probably the first major work was Shonda Shongit, also known as Evening Songs, which was published around the time when he was 23. Like a lot of his poetry, this too is a collection of lyrics or songs. He was also a composer, so he made sure that he added music to his poetry. He composed the music and he wrote his verses, his songs accordingly. They were supposed to be sang and chanted. And so was the case with this book, Evening Songs, which was followed by another book called Morning Songs. So the one book, Evening Songs, while that talks about the sadness, the pain, the other one, Songs, it brings joy and happiness. But you have to accept that a lot of Tagore's writings, they contain deep sense of melancholy. Probably it comes from his own experiences. For example, he wrote Gitanjali, for which he got the Nobel Prize. He wrote this book after the deaths of his wife, his father, three of his children, two daughters and one son. He's lost many people in his life. Prior to that, he lost his sister-in-law, who some speculate probably she was in love with him or he was in love with her, and she committed suicide around the time when he got married. So there was a deep sense of pain in him, and you can find that in his writing. But at the same time, the writings, all his expressions, they give you such a nice healing touch. I would also suggest you to read his letters. He wrote those letters to many people, including Gandhi, with whom he had many disagreements. He wrote those letters, and in those letters he revealed so many of his own emotions, his beliefs. So they add up to the whole experience that you find in his literature. When you read Tagore's plays or watch them, it's very easy to notice that there is more feelings than action. Tagore immerses himself in human psychology in the simplest of things, and he explores human psychology. He doesn't focus too much on the actions or a lot of events, they don't happen much. But you'll always find some kind of emotion and pain and suffering in his plays. Perhaps the most famous of them all is Dakghar, also known as The Post Office, which dramatizes the story of a lonely boy. This boy called Amal is confined to his room, is longing to be free, and day after day he sits at the window watching people go by. Needless to say, we know where the story will end. And just like the plays, in his short stories also, you'll find the same experience. The sense of loss, tragedy, personal loss. There was also recently a TV series directed by Anurag Basu on the short stories by Tagore. You should watch them if you're not going to read. But I would say reading has its own value and experience. Of course, there's nothing like reading the original texts in Bangla, but if you can't read, you can't read. You can't do much about it. And just like his plays, Tagore once again focuses a lot on human psychology. Women somehow play an important role in his stories, and so was the case in one of his famous novels, Chokher Bali, where you'll find the story of this woman called Binodini. He beautifully captures the life back then and how an ordinary person goes through the complexities of life. But somehow I feel that Tagore was a much better short story writer than he was a novelist, and perhaps even better as a poet. But the core of all his writing, you'll find the essence of being, the existence, as if he's trying to understand and perhaps celebrate life, is trying to find the bliss, and in the meantime, his reader is also experiencing the same.